Welcome. Check It Out with Jessica Lee. I'm here with Michael Freeman, who is the VP of Demand Creation and Marketing Operations at Adaptive Insight, a Workday company. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks for having me, Jessica.
Yeah, well, great to have you here. Share us about your beliefs in this pull versus push marketing strategy.
Yeah.
Are you going to talk about that?
Sure, yeah. So I've been with the company for about 3.5 years. And when I joined, I think the company was very reflective of what a lot of companies have done historically, of having a very push-based marketing or an outbound type of marketing, where you're trying to just push ads or messages onto people when they have no interest in that content. It's characterized typically by buying large lists of names from databases or vendors and then sending them unsolicited email and then hoping you get a very low, or not hoping, but the reality is expecting a very low response rate, but having enough volume that you could hit your number that way.
I see. Spamming people.
Some people might call it that. Absolutely.
We all experience that.
Absolutely. And there's been changes in the marketplace like GDPR and other kind of dynamics at play with the mail providers. That's basically made that type of tactic much less effective than it used to be. And frankly, people didn't really like it that much.
And we have more data now to actually be more personalized.
We have way more data to be more targeted, more personalized, and more relevant. And then also be able to study and learn about the behaviors and then iterate with new experiments and new ways of reaching people with the right message that they actually are interested in. So when I was hired into the company, part of my responsibility was to really focus on the web and then expanding how we take more of a pull type strategy. And that's another way of saying inbound marketing. So it's trying to create helpful content and messaging and stories and proof points, but finding your customers or prospects where they already are and trying to be helpful without necessarily pushing a product on them too hard. They need to be ready to move forward. But it's important to establish a relationship early and establish credibility and trust before you're really asking too much of them.
So when you say trust, there are third-party places like Radius or G2 Crowd or Gartner.
That's been a very helpful strategy for us. Now, one thing to say is you need to have a good product, right? It's really hard to sell if you're just putting lipstick on a pig. But so, first and foremost, you really need to delight your customers and make sure you have a solid product. But if you have that, there's no better advocate than a happy customer. And we're very fortunate to have fantastic reviews by our customers on sites like G2 Crowd, Trust Radius, Gartner Peer Insights, Capterra, Get Apps, Software Advice. I mean, I could go on. And we really try to use that when we are communicating to existing prospects, potential prospects, or even people who are in the middle of the funnel, who are looking for additional data points that they can trust us. I mean, we're a SaaS business, and SaaS, you're only as good as the service you're delivering right now, because people can cancel essentially at any point or when your contract's up. And so if we can show that our customers we're not only convinced to buy our software, but are happy to continue to use it, that is very powerful when you're dealing with someone who's thinking about how are they going to change their business. Because ultimately, when you buy software, it's really about how you're going to change your processes and the way you work. That's what software does.
Okay. So right now, are you going after new markets, or are you still in the SMB market?
Well, actually, we sell to SMB, mid-market, large enterprise. I mean, the fact of the matter is that there's just that many more SMB companies out there than larger enterprises. So from a logo perspective, we do have more SMB customers, but that's reflective of the population of companies. When you look at it on a revenue basis, that starts shading much more towards mid-market and large enterprise because those deals tend to be larger. And they tend to be customers that stay with you longer because they don't go out of business or they don't get bought by another company as often. So that part has been fairly stable for us, and we are pretty evenly split between those three markets. We are seeing accelerated growth on the higher end of the market. Being part of Workday absolutely helps that as well. Being part of a publicly traded company that's very financially sound, large workforce, global partner network, etc.
Workday has a financial management solution already. How does your solution fit into this portfolio?
Yeah, Workday has a leading financial management solution, a leading HCM solution, and a leading analytics solution. But when you step back and look at a business, we really look at it that they do three core functions. They plan as a business, they execute as a business, and then they analyze the performance and think about what they need to do next. And so the core software applications that they had were in the HCM space and in the financial space. And their financials product primarily is really dealing with things like accounting and what other people might call ERP in other contexts. So similar to what Oracle or an SAP might do, but better and in the cloud. What we bring to the table is this planning solution that complements the rest of their platform. They actually had their own planning product. They were a partner of ours, an investor in a few other competitors of ours. They decided to build their own product, and then they realized that this market is starting to turn in terms of adoption, and that they were a little bit, with their homegrown product, a little bit behind in terms of features, functionalities, capabilities, and they realized that they could accelerate where they were by a couple of years by buying Adaptive.
I see. Okay, so it's been a strategic acquisition just to get in the market that's accelerating.
Yeah, it's a very strategic acquisition. It makes a ton of sense. I have nothing but admiration and respect for Anil, our CEO. He's absolutely amazing, as well as within our business unit, Tom Bogan. They just provide great leadership. Now, what happens is that the decision process to buy an accounting package and move it to the cloud is a very long decision process, and companies don't switch out their accounting packages regularly. However, with the planning product, that's a much shorter buying cycle, and it's also a simpler implementation than doing a full financial suite. And frankly, a lot of companies either have their planning function built around spreadsheets today, or some legacy software that might be shelfware from their existing accounting provider that they're not using, or a very small team of expert users are using. But the best form of planning is one where everyone's involved. It's very collaborative, and it's also something that's easy to do, so that allows it to be continuous. So what we bring to that table is a solution where you can get in the door, establish credibility, provide value by helping companies implement something we call active planning, a different methodology. And from there, as we are delivering value, building a relationship, when they are ready to move their accounting package to the cloud, they'll consider Workday. Once a customer starts their journey by buying a planning solution, that is where we can build credibility, add value, and trust. And when they're ready to move their accounting package to the cloud, they'll consider Workday because they love working with us already, and it's a natural extension to really address more and more of the needs of the Office of the CFO with a Workday solution. Right.
That seems to be like the low-hanging fruit there. But what are the challenges you face?
One of the challenges we have is that Excel is very entrenched in organizations. And Excel is a product that everyone loves and everyone hates, right? And that's one of its blessings and curses, is that it's so open. It's a blank canvas, and you can create and develop it to do almost anything you want as a single user. But as your business becomes more complex, you have more people involved in the planning and reporting processes, those open capabilities and freedoms of Excel actually become hindrances. People breaking cells, breaking formulas, file version control problems, things being out of sync. We have a customer story from P.F. Chang's, the restaurant chain, and I remember very clearly one of their FP&A members talking about their previous process where they were receiving 140 spreadsheets every month from all their different locations, and she had to manually consolidate those every month.
Wow.
And, the quote was, she still has nightmares from that. And now it's all built into one system in the cloud. It's fast, it's reliable. So, when she's, as a result of not spending that time shuffling spreadsheets everywhere, she actually has time to analyze and understand the business and help the company make better decisions faster.
And there's a lot of robotic process automation now that can go to the financial tasks.
That's one of the most exciting things about our market is besides the benefits from consistency and automation, is we're now starting to move into machine learning and seeing what AI can do to accelerate all aspects of the business.
Right. That's exciting.
It's very exciting. That's really the next area of growth. I think in the enterprise software space in general, but we are one of the leaders in that area.
Okay. I want to go into the marketing operations part of it.
Absolutely.
Could you share with us a story of how you've made an impact? And I think you've grown the pipeline or the leads a lot and lowered the cost of acquisition too.
Yeah, there's two different points I'll be happy to touch on. So one is just by moving to this more of an inbound marketing approach, more of a pull strategy, we've been able to grow, our opportunity volume by multiples over the last couple of years, while at the same time reducing the cost per opportunity by over 50%. And it's very rare that you can scale growth that much and at the same time reduce your expenses per opportunity.
Yeah, so how did you do that?
Well, we did it by investing in programs that really scale and pay off over a long time. So, for example, search engine optimization is one of the first things I started focusing on when I joined the company. And the beauty of it is, well, first, when you do it correctly, you really need to build empathy and understanding of your persona and your target audience. You're trying to understand their problems that they're trying to solve, the pain points they have, areas that they're trying to research and understand. And then you build helpful content for them so that when they are searching, they find it, they discover it. And you're providing something of value without necessarily asking for a lot in return. And as we start to build those relationships over time, and they can see that we have a certain point of view and thought leadership about what planning should be in a healthy, successful organization, it gets them to change their point of view. So perhaps that legacy enterprise performance management system that they're using and struggling with isn't the right solution going forward. Or Excel perhaps is not the right solution going forward for that function and that purpose, and they would consider us. But the beauty of that is once you understand the persona, you create that content one time, it can continue to rank in Google virtually in perpetuity. So, for example, I have content that I created over 3 years ago that still ranks in the first couple of results for searches in Google.
That's
but
great.
Now I'm free and my team are free to develop new content and other pieces of information. Whereas if everything is very ad-driven or transactional, then you're paying for every transaction each time. And it's hard to scale that cost-effectively in the same way.
Right.
But separately on the marketing operations front, one of the things that we've done is we've tried to shift to more of a self-service model. So using marketing automation software, we really focused on developing an experience that marketers could empower themselves to build and run their own campaigns using the software. And that's different than traditionally how a lot of marketing operations teams would work. So traditionally, using very complicated and difficult to use software, there'd be a small team of experts, and all other marketers were dependent upon those experts to build landing pages or emails and lists and then send out and manage these campaigns and then report on the performance for the marketers. We've changed that up, so now it's a self-service approach for most of that work, so that marketers themselves can build the emails, build the landing pages. We still are fairly involved in ensuring that people are segmenting and targeting the lists correctly, but then also providing the tools so that they can report on their own. And this frees up the capacity within marketing operations to be thinking about what do we need to do next, because this quarter we have to hit a number, next quarter we have to hit a number, and everyone's focused on how we're going to hit that number right now. Well, marketing operations is more like an internal consulting organization that's thinking about what investments do we need to start making now so that we can hit next year's number.
Right.
Because we're going to grow budget faster than we'll grow people. Or excuse me, we're going to grow our target faster than we're going to grow people or our budget. So we can only do that by working smarter and more effectively. And I'm very proud of what my team has done.
Good. I agree. SEO is great because then it's one-time investment versus pay-per-click is every click.
Right. Well, and pay-per-click and SEM, AdWords, whatever you want to call it, online advertising, has a great role in our marketing mix. I do think SEO is, over the long term, a sounder investment. If you had to choose, I don't have either. I would err on the side of building up an SEO capability first, but that doesn't mean it should come at the expense of never doing pay-per-click.
Right.
It's just about being wise with your investments. Mm-hmm. So in my career, I've competed in search with a lot of different companies across a lot of different industries. And quick point of clarification is you have your business competitors, but in search you actually have your search competitors. And so what that means is when someone is searching, they have a certain intent behind the words they're using,
yes.
But sometimes that intent is vague. And the same word could mean different things to different people in different contexts. And so what you find is while you might be trying to rank for a term that your competitors are also trying to rank, your normal business competitors, you will also find that you are ranking and competing for ranking with Google or for ads with people who use the same language but have a completely different intent. For example, is budgeting software talking about corporate performance management, software that's really helping enterprises build better budgets and plans and forecasts and reporting? Or is it for your own personal expenses to manage your own household's budget? It's an ambiguous intent. So I might compete with Mint or Quicken when it comes to search, but as a business, we'd never be in competition with each other. Or financial reporting. Is that something that an FP&A director does on behalf of the CFO? Or is that the Wall Street Journal or the Financial Times? That's financial reporting too. So you need to be really thoughtful when it comes to paid search. You need to be really thoughtful with those investments and understand not only what is the language that your audience is using, what other audiences are using that same language that might be clicking and consuming your budget, but they will never turn into prospects or opportunities.
They're the wrong targets, really.
Right. Yeah. And so you look at all of your campaigns, your ad groups, you try to build a great and talented in-house team or partner with a great agency, but you need to be careful because the devil's in the details.
Yes.
And so if you spend the time to understand how your paid search is really working, as opposed to just looking at average clicks or average spend and average conversions, then you can really optimize the program and it can do wonders for you. But frankly, I have to say, a lot of the people I compete with in search are pretty dumb when it comes to the way they choose to manage their search programs.
But I know you spend money on events too, because events is actually when you get FaceTime. Yeah, so we're all about helping educate our prospects. Our software is in a category that typically is not budgeted. If they're not already using the software, it's typically not budgeted for them, and it's because it's taking a process they already have and doing it a different way and better. And so a lot of that comes from educating our target market, and we find that people like learning in different ways. So we have 3 core programs, if you will. We have our online programs that we've already talked about. We have a webinar program, and then we also do a large amount of in-person events. We find that just as the same way we try to be where our audience is online, we also try to physically be where our audience is out in the field. And so a lot of people want to see the software in person, want to hear customer stories in person, or have a chance to do Q&A with one of our planning professionals. And so we found that to be a very effective program.
it's more expensive than what you could do with a webinar, but we really see the return on that investment because of the connections we're making, and we're showing people, in real life, this is how it could work for you.
Yeah, and I think that the journey does require you to have multiple touches.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely. I mean,
digital and in person.
Right, we're at a price point where people are not going to our website, clicking buy, and we're not Amazon that way.
Right.
It's a really considered purchase, and so we want to give people those different ways to learn, or to bring other members of, let's say, a buying committee or their peers to get excited. We might first make contact with the champion of the project, but they might want to bring people in from IT or from procurement or other members of the finance or sales organizations when they're looking at our product.
Are you buying intent data and taking advantage of intent data?
We are. So that's an interesting growth market. It wasn't really around, 5-8 years ago, but there's a few key vendors out there, and I think it's important to not just look at what the intent vendors are selling. You need to triangulate it with understanding your target market, and also making sure that you understand how well those vendors are categorizing the intent. Similar to search, where there might be intent ambiguity, with content that these intent vendors are reporting on, there might be intent ambiguity as well.
Yeah.
So if the article is about finance and reporting, you really need to understand with that vendor and looking at some of those articles to ensure that their classification system is going to align with the way you think about the business.
Okay. Well, this is very exciting, and I'm excited for you being part of a bigger company. Workday is well known around here.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I mean, Workday is a wonderful company. They're consistently ranked as one of the best companies to work for.
Yeah.
The beauty of the acquisition is that culture is the single most important thing when any M&A activity happens for it to be successful. And our cultures and values were already very well aligned. The leadership on both sides of the acquisition really spent a long time evaluating the offer. It was a very quick deal, but in terms of a lot of time focusing on how well our cultures would mesh with each other, and that was a critical component, and that is why they decided to move forward. And it's been fantastic.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you, Michael, for being on the show and sharing
Thank you, Jessica.
the news.
It's been awesome. I can't wait to see you when we triple in size.
Okay. Well, take it up with Jessica Lee. Thanks for watching. Michael Freeman from Adaptive Insight, a Workday company.